Good morning, all, and welcome to the political science class for Standard 11. Now, first of all, I would like to tell you that if you have opted for this subject, it is really going to be a fruitful journey for you. By studying this subject for 2 years, you will really become a more responsible citizen as well as a more sensible individual also. Uh, we will start with your first book, that is Indian Constitution at Work, and your first chapter deals with Constitution, why and how. So we will start with this key. What do we understand by our Constitution? Constitution is a set of rules according to which the a country is governed. And now the second most important question arises, that is, why do we need a constitution? What is the need of constitution? Can't we do without constitution? In order to answer this question, we will understand many things. First of all, what we need to know, that a country is a large group of people, and this group of people is not only large but also they are diverse in nature. For example, we can see that in a single country, people are living who are speaking different language, who are having completely different culture, who are practicing different religions. Not only this, there is very much difference in the economic status of the people, in the educational status of the people. So in this way, what we find that in a country there live a group of people who are very much diverse in nature, and this diverse group of people have different interest. Not only these interests are different for every people, their interest is completely different from each other. And not only the interest is different, but in many cases, in most of the cases, we can say that these interests are conflicting, they clash with each other. So in this way, what we find that there will be lack of peace among people if they are forced to live without any basic rules. Then there will be constant conflict and lack of peace in the society, in the country. So we need some basic rules. Some basic rule must be there, otherwise there will be a kind of atmosphere of insecurity. People will be insecure because they are not knowing what other people are going to do with them or with the society. So it is very much important that there must be some basic rules, and everyone should know this rule, and these rules should be known to everyone. But here one more thing is important, that not only it is enough ki everyone should know the rule. What is more important, that these rules should be legally enforceable. If these rules are legally enforceable, then only we can ensure its enforcement. Otherwise, are not going to obey the rules. They will obey only when they are knowing that other people are also obeying the rule, because there is fear of punishment. So the most important function a constitution does, it coordinate the different groups. It coordinate the interest of the different groups which are living in a society. This is the first function of constitution, for which we need a constitution. Now we come to the second function of the constitution. The constitution decides who gets to decide. It means the constitution decides the allocation of power. Uh, who is the decision making authority in a country is decided by the constitution. In theory, it is very much easy. We can say that in a monarchical constitution, the decision-making authority rests with the monarchy. In some constitutions, like the previous USSR, the decision-making authority was only with a single party, that was Communist Party. And in a democracy, we can say that this decision-making power resides in people. It is very much easy to say that in a democracy, people has the decision-making authority. But now the question is how people use this power. Do they participate directly in the decision-making process, or they do this through their representative? And if there will be representative, how these representatives will be elected, and what will be the number of representatives? All these questions are solved through the constitution. For example, our constitution, our Indian constitution, give this power of decision making to parliament, and all the process of constitution formation of a parliament is given in the constitution. So it is the function of the constitution to decide the decision making, to specify the decision making authority in a country, and how the government will be constituted is decided by the constitution. Now we come to the third function of the constitution. Constitution has given the decision making authority to a particular body. For example, in India it has been given to parliament. Now think of the situation that by following all the rules whatever described in the constitution, parliament is making laws, and these laws are curbing your freedom, personal freedoms, such as right to freedom of expression, freedom of movement, freedom of occupation, and these laws also may be against a particular caste. There may be parliament may pass a law which is against the interest of the lower caste. It discriminate people on the basis of caste, and then in these type of situation, what will we do? So it is the one of the most important function of the constitution is to set some limits on the powers of the government. Government has the decision making authority. It has to follow a particular procedure, and it cannot take decisions in an arbitrary manner. It has to do under some limitations, and there are various types of limitations are put on the power of the government. The most important limitation on the power of the government is the fundamental rights of the people, which is specified in the constitution itself. Mostly all the countries experience all the constitutions give some fundamental rights to its citizens, such as it give right to people, right against arbitrary arrest. The government cannot arrest a person without following a particular process and without a valid reason. The constitution gave us many personal freedoms, such as freedom to perform any freedom to practice any religion, freedom to right to expression, freedom to movement to any place, freedom to occupation. All these kinds of rights are specified in the constitution, and these rights put a limitation on the powers of the government. The government cannot trespass these limits. There are situations in the there may be need in the national security, for the purpose of national security. There may be some curb may be imposed on the rights of the people, but that is an abnormal situation in normal life. And normally the constitution cannot uh, violate the fundamental rights which are given to the people by the constitution, and in this way these rights put limitation on the powers of the government. The government cannot misuse its powers. Most of the constitution, the older constitution, focus only on the powers of the government, its formation and limitation. But in 20th century, the new constitutions are focusing on another topic also, and our constitution is the finest example of this. What we find that the government is not only government should only the government should not be given only the power of decision making. Actually, government is supposed to play a positive role in achieving the aspiration and goals of a society. What is the aspiration and goals of a society? For example, our country, our society aspire to be a justiciable society, a society where there should not be any kind of discrimination on the basis of caste. In this case, the responsibility is on the government. It will act according to the provisions of the constitution, and our constitution empower the government to take positive steps in the direction of welfare of the whole community. And in this direction, our constitution, the Indian constitution, gives our government provide for many things, such in our preamble, in the fundamental rights, and in the directive principles of state policy. And by following the provisions which are given in these sections of the constitution, it is the function of the constitution to empower the government in order to achieve a justiciable society, which is the aspiration and goal of our society. Now we come to the fifth function of the constitution. Actually, constitution gives us a collective identity. It gives us a collective identity in the sense that we all the people of a country are under the same basic rules. All are supposed to follow the same basic rule, and in this way we all are having one political identity. Besides, the constitution also gives us moral identity, because there are some values which are there in our constitution, and we all are supposed to follow those values, and we are all are supposed not to trespass these values. So in this way the constitution also gives us a moral identity. And one more thing which is very much important, that if we see all countries, there is a diversity of religion and culture and ethnicity is there, and every constitution deals with this diversity in its own way. And what we see that our constitution, in Indian constitution, ethnicity has nothing to do with the citizenship. And when we compare it with Germany, we find that there is relation between the ethnicity and German citizenship. So in this way we see that the constitution gave us a collective identity.